Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Perfect song for today as we're moving into continuing our conversation about surrender. And I gave you a hint last week about what we were going to talk about today. But I want to get us in the spirit of it all. We're going to play the movie clip. Oh. I think this famous quote by Mr. Spock where he says, "Logic clearly dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few," speaks to this idea of community, and sometimes it suggests that we sometimes need to look beyond our own individual perspective, which is our normal perspective, right? That's the only one we have, is our own perspective. But sometimes we need to get outside of that and look beyond that into the larger community, into the good of the whole, as it were. And community is not always what we think of. Community can be our families. We can have a community of family. We have a community in our business life, the community of whatever industry maybe that we're in or whatever company we may be participating in. We have a community like this, our spiritual community. And we have our community that we think of in our civic relationships, like our cities, our counties, our states, nation, even our global community. So there's all sorts of different communities that we all participate in at different times in our lives. So it's sometimes we need to get outside of our own preferences and look at that idea of wholeness, that idea of the whole, and what the larger ideas are. So we are continuing, as I said, with our I Release and Let Go series, which we've been talking about all throughout the month of April, and it's about the empowering path of surrender. The empowering path of surrender as a spiritual practice, not as the idea of giving up or failure or letting go of something that is continuing to serve us, perhaps. But today, with our meeting after this, our annual meeting, I thought it would be a good time to look at this idea of I surrender into community. I surrender into community. Now, last month we celebrated our volunteers here, which are a key component of our community. And I'm just still so filled with gratitude as I even think about everyone that volunteers here each and every week to make sure that our service happens, to make sure that all the things that we do happen. And if you recall, we have small group leaders. And about a year and a half ago, I guess, we had a meeting where we sat down and talked about what types of small group ministries are we interested in having in this community. And we had people that raised their hand that had a vision of a small group ministry in our community. And they stepped forward. And they stepped forward as leaders. They said yes to the idea. They stepped forward as the leaders. And they've continued to do so, not only to lead, but to nurture and grow these groups. And, you know, there are probably times that they don't want to prepare. There's probably times that they don't want to drive to the facility for the meeting. There's probably times that they don't really want to spend time in the meeting. But they do it anyway. And they do it anyway because they're answering a higher call, a higher agenda, if you will, not just their own individual agenda, but the group, the community, the small group that they've committed to is what they're honoring, they're being a part of. And that supports not only them and that group, but it supports our whole community and this ministry as a whole. And I think that's pretty special. This week, as I have been preparing for not only this talk, but also for our annual meeting, you know, we talk about the past and the future and that sort of thing in those meetings. And I've been reminiscing a little bit, as we're wont to do when we start looking back, right? We start reminiscing about all the things that have happened. And I've been thinking about even day one when we had our first meeting to just even talk about, is this something we want to do? And 60 people showed up at my home on New Year's Day. New Year's Day. You know, I was touched. And then we started meeting at La Quinta in our little study group. And then we moved up to the Marriott. And then Spirit revealed this beautiful facility for us, and we've been meeting here on Sundays ever since. And how blessed we've been on that journey of unfolding and allowing this community to unfold through us, organically as it were, throughout the last 2+ years now. So as I think about that in our connecting, as I said when we do our meet and greet part, we truly do feel the energy increase in the room because of the connection that we have within community and the light that just illuminates this room when everybody gets connected heart to heart. So we connect on our Sunday mornings. We do it at our famous tailgate parties after service, right? Nobody else, I think, I don't know of anybody that has a tailgate party besides us after church. I think that's pretty cool. And also we have our brunch bunch that we do once a month. And we go out and we have community and dine together. And we have our small group meetings, as I said, in our study group. We study together. We play together. So as I've thought about us as community, what came to mind was the values that we share, the values that I have watched emerge amongst us, if you will, that we all honor without having ever really said these are our values, yet we live them. And the ones that came up for me are honesty, integrity, kindness, generosity. And I see that every time I'm with any of you. I see all of those. And I have to wonder how those values are affecting the world. Because I know, because I hear your stories, I hear your experiences of how you are walking those values in your life. Through the kindness that you share, through the generosity, through the help that you lend to people that are in need, to the paying it forward that we do. All of the stories that I hear of your life tells me you're walking your talk. You're walking these values. You're living this teaching. And I wonder how many, not only in your personal life, but how many people you're touching as you live this, as you are this example. And I know there are people that you know that you're influencing, but how about all the ones that you don't even know? Through a kind gesture, through a smile, a kind word, a kind act, that you impact their life and maybe even change it forever through something that we don't even know that we did. I just think that is a very powerful way to walk through life. So I believe this idea about surrendering into community is surrendering into a greater whole. Surrendering into a greater whole. And as I was sitting in meditation this morning, what really came through to me very clearly was what we are surrendering is our separation from the one. That's what we're surrendering. Because we have this idea that we're all separate, but we're not. We're all connected in the wholeness and oneness of God itself. And we have this idea of separation because we are physically, seemingly separate. But when we can surrender that idea and come back into that wholeness, into that oneness, and remember that we are that universal flow of energy, that universal flow of life itself, we are it, then we can become that community again in wholeness. It's like our cells in our body are each individualized, right? A skin cell is special and different from a heart cell or a liver cell or a hair cell. They're all different, but all necessary for the wholeness of the body to be this beautiful vehicle that we all live in. And we are the individualized cells of God. Each and every one of us and everything on this planet is in that wholeness of the divine, and we are the individualized, specialized, unique cells of the divine. All necessary, all important. All necessary and all important. And it's so easy to forget that sometimes and feel unimportant. But we're all critical. Ernest Holmes, the author of The Science of Mind, from which we teach, and also the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, he tells us in his book, Living the Science of Mind, you heard Reverend Glenn read from this morning. It's what we're using as kind of a study guide for this year for many of our quotes and things. And he's explaining that mystical saying, "He that loses his life for my sake shall find it." Now, did that ever make any sense to anybody? I mean, really, it didn't to me. I think it's been misinterpreted a lot, but I love the way Holmes looks at it. I mean, he had a great perspective, right? He says, we see that losing our lives or making the great surrender in spirit does not mean losing anything worthwhile, but getting rid of those things which deny the presence and the power of spirit right here on earth. Now, he's following that from talking about how Jesus really taught prosperity principles and abundance and having enough and good and lots of food and wine at the wedding and all that kind of stuff. You know, he wasn't about lack and limitation. And he's saying that's what this means is lose the stuff that is not supporting us. Lose the stuff that denies the power and presence of the divine right here, right now. He says it is the great negations of life that we have to surrender. The doubts and fears and uncertainties, the coldness and unkindness and lack of love. Yeah, let go of that stuff, right? There was a lot of stuff on Facebook during Lent about things to give up, you know, unkindness and things like that. So yeah, what if we gave those things up? So releasing all the negativity in our life is surrendering to our greater selves, the greater expression of the true magnificence of who we are and who we've come here to be as life expressing through us without resistance. Without resistance. The spiritual idea of surrender, as we said, is the idea of releasing the struggle and releasing the things that don't serve us in exchange for the things that do, making room for the things that do. You know, we drag around a lot of stuff in life, don't we? Physical stuff, mental stuff, emotional stuff. We got to let go of something if we're going to receive new. Our hands get full, our bags get full. Have you ever gone on vacation and had to buy a second suitcase to bring stuff home in? Right? All the souvenirs, or leave things all throughout. I know when I traveled in Europe years and years ago, it was like left stuff all over Europe because I bought new things. But we do that, don't we? It's like letting go of the old to receive the new. Sonia Friedman, psychologist and author, says, if you don't like where you are in life, there comes a point when you must give up the part of you that keeps you back. Ow. Is there anything holding you back from your fullest expression? Is there anything keeping you walled in, away from that which you seek? Have you discovered what it is? Or maybe you've assigned blame. I've done that. Oh, well, I'm this way because, oh, life's just that way because I'm this way. Or this happened to me and because of such and such, that's the way it is. I knew a lady years ago who discovered through the Enneagram, familiar with the Enneagram, the numbers, and tells a little bit about personality types and stuff. And she discovered through the Enneagram that she was a solid 8. Now, if you're familiar with the Enneagram, an 8 is like a bull in a china shop. It's dictatorial, it's the generals in the army. And she had that personality type, but when she found out she was that became her excuse. Well, I'm just an 8. And it became her excuse to be unkind, unloving, perhaps rude. Well, I can't help it, I'm just an 8. Right? So she found something that she could hang this on as opposed to trying to find the more kind and generous side of an 8. The part of the 8s that would get things done and accomplished to the benefit of the whole. So, is there something that we're blaming in our life as an excuse for not allowing the free flow of our true magnificence to come? And I have to ask us, is it worth it in the long run of life for overall happiness? Or is it time to surrender that and let that go? Is it time to let it go and open and allow life to flow through us? Well, as I've told you all many times, I have the privilege of living this teaching every week as I'm going through preparing services. Things come up, right? Get examples. So what I've realized in putting this together is the resistance and blame that I experienced in the first quarter of this year as I was making my transition. Many of you know that I downsized my job again, my other job, my real estate job, from 4 days to 3, so I'm really part-time there. And as I've done that, there's been this letting go process. Have you ever seen that t-shirt, "Everything I Ever Let Go Of Has My Claw Marks in It"? I had some of that, and it was really quite funny because on the one hand, this is what I've asked for, this is what I want, it supports my dream and my vision of being here with you full-time, permanent, every day, yay! And yet, wait, I've been doing that for 14 years, that's mine! So I was caught in this with my own resistance, and did I blame everybody else? Sure, right? Because that's easy. They're not, yeah. So I got to discover that and look at that and watch all of that come up and recognize how my ego, my power and control issues were at play. And then I got to look at what's back of that, what's underneath that, what's really going on. Well, it's fear, of course, right? It's fear. It's lack. It's fear of loss. It's fear of not being included anymore in everything, not knowing everything. All of that stuff bubbled up for me to look at and to play with and to try to heal. So that's what I've done, and realized that I think it's very powerful that sometimes releasing the old and accepting the new thing that we really, really, really desire can be really difficult. Can be really difficult. The hardest part of living the life of our dreams is letting go of the old. Letting go of the old. We did that series last year on alchemy. Remember that? We talked about transforming all the different sorts of things we were transforming. And it said that the aim of alchemy is to purify, mature, and perfect certain objects. So if this is true, do you think that the surrendering to community is really the transformation of the I into that liberated we? Transformation of I into we when we surrender into community, into that greater wholeness. And it's a way of demonstrating our unity and our fellowship with each other. Our unity and our fellowship. We hear a lot today in ministry circles about how church attendance is down and people aren't into religion anymore and people don't go to spiritual centers and such, and they become hospitals for the spiritually ill. Yeah, hospital, emergency room for the spiritually ill. And I'm so grateful as I read these studies and go, yeah, we're not that. You know, we're here empowering possibilities in lives. We're learning together, we're growing and evolving together. And we know that successful living does come from the inside out, and we do our practices, and we walk this talk and our values and things that we talked about earlier. So I'm so grateful that we have that, and that we are community, and that when things do happen in our lives, and we all have them that happen where we need support, that we're here for each other. We support each other. And if there's a celebration in our lives, we're here for each other. We support each other. That's what community does, isn't it? We're here for each other. And I think that's another key in this whole idea of surrendering to community, is allowing that. Because sometimes it can be hard to receive service, can't it? It can be hard to ask for help. Yeah. I'm always surprised when I have seen over the years someone that's in distress, and rather than stepping into community for help, they step away. They step away. And that's the time when we can really be here for each other and lend a hand, lend some support. So I want to move us now into application, because we're all about application, right? And how do we apply this stuff in our life? And so our practicing the principles. Our first one is be like Spock. Be like Spock. Ask, what is the good of the many? We started out the month with what would love do here, and asking that question. Well, this one is a similar one to that in what is the good of the many? You may recall my example of my friends in California that have that beautiful relationship, the marriage, and how I've been quizzing her for the 5 years I've known her. It's like, okay, how does this work again? And she says that they do, I've witnessed it, the relationship is primary. The relationship is primary, not them as individuals needing their own way, so to speak, but the relationship and what is the benefit to the relationship of the decisions that they make. How does it support the relationship? How does it support their vision of what their marriage and their relationship is? And it's a very powerful way to look at that. And that's how I think we look at community, because we have our community vision that we look at, how does this support the vision of this community for these activities and things that we do? How does it support the vision of the community that we've come together with? So in looking at this, the good of the many, and it's really looking at the good in all of the communities again, our family, our business, our spiritual community, the global community. What is the good of the many? And I think there's three things that, as good stewards, we talk about stewardship here, as good stewards, there's three things that I think we all can lean into in these ideas of any of our communities. I think they apply to all of our communities. And the first one is to connect. To connect. If we don't participate, by definition, it's not our community, is it? I used this example several years ago with, I am not a member of the Kiwanis Club in Chandler. Not my group. I don't go there. I don't connect with them. I don't support them. It's not my group. It's not my community. This one is. I attend. I participate. I show up. So where are your communities? Is it a family? Do you participate or do you connect in your family? Do you connect in your workplace? Do you connect globally? Do you connect? Those are our communities. Who's heard of Meetup? Anybody heard of Meetup? A few of you? Yep. Okay, Meetup. We have a group on Meetup, and I looked at the statistics of the whole Meetup, not our group. This is not our group. And there are 30.30 million, got it? 30 million members worldwide. There are 272,000 Meetup groups, 272,000 Meetup groups in 182 different countries. So if you're traveling, you want something to do, log on to Meetup, see what's going on. And there are 608,000 Meetups on a monthly basis to choose from. And there are 4.1 million monthly RSVPs to those meetings and those groups. 4.1 million. And they say right now there's 11,516 meetups happening right now. So we're one of those. We're one of those. Now, there are lots of ways to participate in community out there. This is a wonderful global opportunity to socially to connect in various different types of activities and groups, and there's all sorts of specializations within it. Well, as I said, we have one, and our meetup has 236 members in it. Doesn't look like it today, now does it? Exactly. So, of those 4.1 million monthly RSVPs, what is the actual participation rate? What is the actual participation rate? How many people are really in those communities? And that's the question. Are they showing up? The 236 members in our meetup don't participate. They don't connect with us. Right? So it's all about being here, being present, and connecting with your community. It's signing up and showing up. Signing up and showing up in community. Our second point is to serve. To serve. And joyfully giving the gift of our time and talent and selfless service to others is a powerful spiritual practice and transformation of the whole self. Anybody that's been in service anywhere, volunteered anywhere, knows how heart-opening and rewarding being of service can be. And doing it joyfully. Doing it joyfully. Has anybody ever lived in a community that had a homeowners association? Few of us, yeah, few of us. Well, that's a group of like-minded people that all bought in the same community. There's some common elements around that the developer set up and said, okay, we're going to have a board and people to run this, and everybody contributes to the whole, and we'll maintain the beautiful landscaping and the swimming pool and the gates and the streets, and it's a wonderful idea, right? Boy, can those be dicey little situations. Oh my gosh. Coming from the real estate world, in commercial and residential both, associations can be places where people allow, remember my power and control issues? Power and control to come up and come out and be expressed. And it can be very divisive and very much anger-inducing. Yeah. So we need to look at how we show up in all of these communities and joyfully giving that service, and not making it about our power and control issues, but about service, about being of service to that community. And finally, circulate. We are committed to being good stewards of all of the financial resources that are entrusted to us for the sustainability of our center and its works in the world. These three components are what we came up with a year and a half ago as part of our stewardship and membership program and what it meant to be a member at Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living. But I think they apply globally across all of these communities that we may be participating in. Money is a fact of life, right? It's a part of commerce. It's a part of our global economy. And it's a method of exchange that we have invested in and created in our society that we all participate in. And our communities, all of them, need money to thrive, don't they? Your family needs financial resources to thrive. Our cities need financial resources to thrive. Our businesses need financial resources to thrive, right? Our spiritual communities need financial resources to thrive and continue to do its work in the world. We're very blessed here at Scottsdale Center. I appreciate your generosity beyond belief. But that's a key component, is this idea of circulation, the idea of circulation. When we are paying someone for a service or a job that they do, it's that circulation. They have given and now they are receiving. They have given and now they are receiving. It's that big circle. So the idea of circulation is give, receive, and repeat, just like shampoo. Rinse and repeat. So surrendering into community, being good steward in all of your communities, your family, your business, your city, your spiritual community. It's a powerful way to connect not only with yourself, with each other, but connect in God, in that oneness, back into the wholeness and the oneness that we are, the cells of the divine, letting go of the separation, letting go of our resistance to the good that is ours, that is spirit flowing through us, that is our natural divine birthright, letting go of that resistance, taking down those walls, allowing it to flow. All I can say is try it. Try it in some area of your life and watch spirit show up in a powerful way. So the truism that the good of the many does outweigh the good of the few, I think is very true. So I invite you now to join me as we move into an affirmative prayer to anchor this morning. So how good it is to recognize the truth of the divine, the truth of the oneness and the wholeness that is spirit, that is God, that is the source of all that is, the power, the presence, the seasons, the stars and the planets, life itself, the very heartbeat of life, intelligence and wisdom, the smile, the kind gesture, all of that is God in expression. The the one power, the one presence. It is in, through, and as all that is. It's in, through, and as me, as an expression of it, individualized and unique, as are each one of us in this room today. Individualized, unique, and important expressions of the divine. And I know, as we are uniquely made manifest, that we come together in this community to form this wholeness, to form this oneness, to be reunited in the wholeness and oneness of the divine. That is our divine birthright, for the magnificence of life to flow through us, as us, powerfully in expression. I know that we easily release those things that no longer serve us, and that we transform and receive and accept the dreams and desires that have been planted in our hearts into full manifestation. And I know, too, for anyone that has anything on their heart this day that they are seeking prayer support around, that as they bring that to mind, it is lifted into this power of spirit in this moment. And that whatever that manifestation is that they seek, it is done, it is so, it is placed into the action of law and made manifest. And for this truth, and for this center, I just speak a word of blessing. Blessing upon our annual meeting to follow, a blessing upon our board of trustees that has served this community for the past 2 years, a blessing upon our practitioners, our volunteers, and each and every person that's ever graced this door and come forward into this community as an expression of the light. Blessings upon each one. So with great gratitude, I release this prayer into the action of law, knowing that it is done, it is so. And we affirm this truth together by saying, and so it is.